Shri Gurubhyo Namah Harihi Om. Dhyayamo dhavalavagunthanavatim Tejomayim Naishthiki Snigdhapangavilokinim Bhagavatim Mandasmita Shri Mukhi Vatsalyamritavarshiniim Sumadhuram Sankirtanalapinim Shyamangim Madhusiktasuktim Amritanandatmikam Ishwarim Om Amriteshwaryai Namah Om Amriteshwaryai Namah Om Amriteshwaryai Namah. So we just looked at the introduction, the invocation part of Tattva Bodha last time. It went as Vasudevendra Yogindram Natva Jnanapradam Gurum Mumukshunam Hitarthaya Tattva Bodho Vidhiyate. Right? That's what we discussed last week. So before we get into looking into the points put forth by Adi Shankaracharya, he reminds us, let us begin that, invoking the divine, invoking the Sadguru, seeking the blessings of the Sadguru. Any auspicious deed that we perform, we should begin that, seeking the blessings of the Sadguru. And for the sake of mumukshus, for the sake of those who would want to understand the supreme reality, I am here. Hereby I am expounding upon Tattva Bodha. That's what the first verse, the invocation was about. So let's go into what's actually discussed in Tattva Bodha. So we'll go to Tattva Bodha 2. We'll begin with that. So like I had mentioned last week or last time when we discussed, it's not in a very metric form, unlike the other texts that we discussed. So it cannot be chanted per se because it doesn't have a specific metric that it sticks to. But anyway, we just go through the pronunciation and look into the word by word meaning, thereafter discuss about it. So the verse that we have thereafter is Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampanna Adhikarinam Moksha Sadhana Bhutam Tattva Viveka Prakaram Vakshyamaha. Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampannadhikarinam Moksha Sadhana Bhutam Tattva Viveka Prakaram Vakshyamaha. So let's just go through the verse word by word, try to pronounce it and understand the meaning thereafter. So it goes as Sadhana,
Sadhana,
S-A-A-D-H, so it is Dha. Sadhana,
Sadhana,
Chatushtaya,
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 Sadhana, Chatushtaya,
Sadhana, Chatushtaya,
Sampanna,
Sampanna,
Sampanna.
Sampanna,
Like I mentioned to you the last time, whenever there are two consonants following each other, you pronounce them twice. So where is it? Sampanna in the first word, the very last part. So N-N-A. So N-A is na, N-N-A is na. Sampanna. Sampanna. Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampanna. Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampanna Adhikarinam.
Adhikarinam,
Adhi, D-H, Dha. Adhikarinam.
Adhikarinam,
Karinam.
Nam,
Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampanna Adhikarinam. Sadhana चतुष्टय संपन्न अधिकारिणां मोक्ष साधन bhutam. So it's three words. There are three words: moksha, moksha, sadhana,
sadhana,
bhutam. Moksha sadhana bhutam.
moksha sadhana, bhutam.
Tattva,
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 viveka,
viveka,
prakaram,
prakaram,
tattva, viveka, prakaram, tattva,
viveka, prakaram,
vakshyamaha,
vakshyamaha,
vakshyamaha.
vakshyamaha.
So sadhana chatushtaya sampannadhikarinam moksha sadhana bhutam tattva viveka prakaram vakshyamaha. So vakshyamaha means we will explain. One thing to note here is he doesn't say I will explain, he says we will explain. It's in plural. Vakshyamaha. Vakshyami would mean I would explain. Vakshyamaha, we would explain. So like I had mentioned to you, Tattva Bodha is less in a metric form. It's more like a conversation. Like a conversation that happens between the guru and the disciples, the perceptor and the learner, or it's a conversation we need to have with our own self. So it's in form of question and answer. So he says we will explain. We are the subjects who are discussing this. Vakshyamaha. We are going to explain to you now what adhikarinam. Adhikara. So this part of the discussion is called adhikari. Adhikari means someone who has the ability, someone who is qualified to do something. So we are discussing about who is an adhikari, who is qualified. So adhikarinam, for those who are qualified to, for those who are endowed with. So I'm explaining for those who have the qualities. What are the qualities? Sadhana chatushtaya sampanna. Sadhana chatushtaya sampanna. Chatushtaya refers to four. For what? The fourfold qualification. Sadhana, to attain something. Sadhana is a practice that we get into to attain something that we desire, attain something that we wish to attain. So sadhana chatushtaya. So there are four qualifications that are required to be an adhikari, to be qualified. Tattva viveka prakaram. Tattva, we just discussed the last time. What is tattva? Tattva. Tattva, the essence, or the supreme reality. Tat means that, right? So tattva, the noun form of tat. So thatness. So tattva viveka prakaram. Viveka, the right discrimination. Prakaram, the mode of discrimination, the way we execute or exercise right discrimination. Moksha sadhana bhutam, which is the means to attain liberation. So overall gist of this verse, Adi Shankaracharya says, I am going to explain, or not I, we are going to explain to those who are qualified, who want to attain liberation, or who would want to understand the essence of the supreme truth, the essence of liberation or the ultimate reality. There are fourfold qualifications for that. So what we are going to discuss today are the four qualifications, or at least part of the four qualifications based on how much time that we have. So for the sake of understanding the supreme truth or the supreme reality, one needs to follow a process of discriminative inquiry. We constantly need to inquire and use the right discrimination to understand what is right, what is wrong. That's not just for spiritual path, for any thing for that matter. If you're doing research, you're trying to understand one of your courses, whatever you do, if you want to best understand the essence of that, it would be best we take an approach of discriminative inquiry, wherein we inquire, we keep asking questions, try to find an answer, but at the same time, use our discrimination to understand what is right and what is wrong, what is true, what is false. But there could be so many various factors wherein we could mistake the false to be true, right? There's a good chance that we misunderstand something that is not true, we misunderstand it as it being true, right? There's a good possibility, especially when we try to understand the supreme reality. We may get skewed by a lot of our characteristics, a lot of our tendencies, and we may think this is right and this is wrong. So I can think of at least 3 factors that affect the way we misunderstand the truth, or we misunderstand the false as the truth. One could be just genuine misunderstanding, right? Just genuinely you misunderstand something. Ignorance. I remember when I was little, I was always taught that this is your stomach. I always thought this was my stomach, and I was really taken by surprise once when I learned in one of my biology classes when the teacher told me stomach is just one small part of this region, and the rest is all part of the gastroenterology, the field, all the various organs of that system. That's what takes up the whole space. Otherwise, my understanding always was this is the stomach, which is wrong. It is a genuine misunderstanding. It was because of ignorance. But once I found out, or once I learned that this whole thing is not the stomach, stomach is just one small part, I could understand the truth better. So definitely there's a possibility that there is a genuine misunderstanding due to ignorance. That's one way how we could misunderstand the false for the truth. The second could be because of our ego. Because of our ego standing as a hindrance for us to understand what is right, what is wrong. When I say ego doesn't just mean pride. Ego, when you say anything that I try to relate or unrelate to myself, ego plays a role, right? I remember a few years ago, about 7 or 8 years ago, I heard about, I usually follow the Indian news too. So it's every now and then you would hear about some mishap that happens. So I heard about this helicopter crash, a helicopter that belonged to the Indian Army that crashed. So whenever I hear such news, I just pray for all those who were affected by it, anyone who died because of that. So I just did that, and I was done with that event. But a couple of days later, I found out one of the girls who studied with me during my undergrad, my classmate, she was in that helicopter and she died in that crash. But once I found that out, my attitude towards that news now changed. It wasn't just a casual reading that I did. I tried to understand more about what happened, how it happened, why it happened, etc. So there's nothing to do with pride here. It's just ego. Initially, I read the same news. I read it, did a prayer, I was done. But second time when I read the same, or when I learned about the same news, but understanding that someone who I knew personally was involved in that, my attitude towards that changed. Right? So ego played a role here. So when I say ego, don't misunderstand it as pride. It's not just pride. Of course, pride is also involved. Because of pride, I sometimes misunderstand things. That is possible too. But when you relate something to me, when I say this is related to me or this is not related to me, the way I think, that can skew my understanding of truth or misunderstanding of truth. So ego plays an important role in hindering us from understanding what is true, what is false. Reminded of a story. It's about a poor man who lived in a village, and he always complained to everyone he saw that God is very impartial to him because he's poor, he's going through all this suffering. God never helps me. God has always kept me in poverty. He's never heard to my prayers. And then once he comes across a holy man, and the holy man asks him, "Why are you crying?" And he says, "I've always prayed to God, and God never gave me what I wanted. I've always been suffering throughout my life in poverty." The holy man took pity in him. So the next time he was praying to God, he very sincerely prayed for this poor man. He prayed to God, "Please do something for this poor man." And because of the holy man's devotion, God appeared in front of him. And he told him, "I understand you're praying for that poor man, but I've always been helping him, but he just doesn't take my help. His ego always some way or the other doesn't let him take my help." And the holy man says, "No, I really understand. He genuinely loves you. Please help him one more time. Please give him one more chance. Please do something so that he overcomes his poverty. He gets over his poverty and all the sufferings that he has to go through is put to an end." God says, "Okay, just for you, I'll try it once more and demonstrate to you how his ego always comes in his way." He says, "I'll do one thing. I'll give him some precious stones, acquiring which he'll definitely become rich." So what God does, God puts some precious stones, very precious stones, inside a bag and places it on the path that the poor man takes every day. And he places it there, assuming he would see that and take it and become rich thereafter. But the poor man came that way and he did not notice the bag, and his feet hits against the bag, and he experiences pain. He gets hurt because he hit his feet against the stones. And he got so angry, in fit of rage, he doesn't even care to see what is inside the bag. He takes it and flings it away, telling, "Which fool put this bag here?" Realizing God himself put it there. But because of his ego, he just didn't care to look what is inside it. And God tells the holy man, "See, I told you." So ego doesn't mean pride. Ego could mean anything. It could be many such factors which we associate ourselves with. We forget to see the supreme truth, or we forget, or we lose a chance to understand what is true, what is false. So ego could be the second type. Third one could be when we lose sight of the bigger picture. We get so obsessed with smaller things that we lose sight of the actual essence, which is very natural. With a lot of things that we do, sometimes we keep doing it so much that we totally forget about what actually needs to be done. I remember last weekend I was supposed to go to Buffalo and Philadelphia, and one of the people who was accompanying me comes from New York. So he was seeing what could he do. So we were looking at some tickets so that he could fly to Buffalo. We were driving from here, so he could fly to Buffalo. And I said, "Okay, we'll look at tickets flying to Buffalo." And we were looking, and New York Buffalo wasn't a very economical thing. But there were a couple of options wherein I could get mileage ticket, some such. And he said, "Okay, why don't we try if I could just come to DC on Friday? That way he could attend the Amrita Kudumam Satsang, and then we could go to Buffalo." And then we started looking at DC. We first looked at Amtrak, then we looked at flight tickets, and then we started looking at buses. And then when we started looking at buses, he lives in New Jersey, so we were looking at which is the nearest thing. And then we started measuring this, calculating distance between his place and some of the bus stations. And then he said, "Oh, Philadelphia seems to be closer." And then we were just going everywhere. We were just exploring literally the Northeast map. We totally forgot what are we finally doing. We spent almost 45 minutes doing nothing, just calculating a lot of distances between cities. Finally, we realized we lost track of what we were actually trying to do. And finally, what we did, we booked a ticket from New York City to Buffalo. So it's just that we tend to forget what we forget the bigger picture. We lose track of what needs to be done. That's another reason why we sometimes don't understand what is right or what is true, what is false. It's like the story I usually share. It's a bus driver is driving the bus with passengers in the bus, and he's a he's a veteran bus driver, very reputed, very someone who has had a very good history, and then all the passengers were very comfortable, and then all of a sudden this bus driver just veers off the road and he just starts driving into the wood, and people are just terrified what's happening, and then he goes and drives it through a shallow pond and then jumps over a cliff, a big a dune kind of thing over the cliff, and then somehow navigates the bus back onto the highway and starts driving. But people are just terrified. They're just so dumbfounded on what actually happened. Why did he do that? They made him stop and ask him, what on earth did you do? We were just going so fine. Why did you have to drive into this? He said, everything was fine. Then I realized there was a deer right in the middle of the road. They said, so what did you do? Why didn't you just, we are taught that once you see a deer, just drive towards it. Just drive towards it. Either the deer will run away, or it's better to just hit the deer as fast as you can. I know it's cruel, but yet that's how the scientific way of doing it is, to minimize the number of deaths. They say that's what we're supposed to do, just drive. He said, what do you mean? I've been driving for 30 plus years. I very well know I have to drive towards the deer. And they said, then what happened? He said, yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to do. I was trying to drive towards the deer, and the deer just ran away and ran into the woods. So I just followed him. It ran into the pond, so I followed him. And then he jumped over the cliff, so I followed him. Finally came back to the road. I also came back with him to the road and then hit him, and then we are continuing. Again, he forgot, or he lost track of what he has to drive towards the deer for. And then he was so fixated on just hitting the deer that he forgot that all this is for the passenger's safety, and I'm actually jeopardizing their safety by doing this. So we lose the track of the bigger picture because we're so focused on smaller things, and we tend to misunderstand between what is right, what is wrong. This is what is put as Maya. Maya, delusion. Maya is delusion, right? This is what we mention as Maya. There is this scripture called Mandukya Upanishad. Mandukya is one of the Upanishads. In that, there's this discussion about a snake and a rope. A snake versus rope. So there is this man. It's just the discussion could be understood as a man who's walking by on a road in a dark night, and suddenly a snake stings him, and it's so painful that he screams out of pain, and he could feel the venom go up his vein and spread into different parts of his body, and he's so desperate. He desperately shouts and screams and gets all the villagers come, and some of them bring flashlight, lamps, lanterns, etc., and they come and they shine the light on the snake, and then they realize it's not even a snake, it's just a rope. And then when he realizes it's just a rope, all of a sudden he's just fine. There's no problem with him. But then the question we need to ask here is the snake real or not? Was the snake real or not? Because he was in pain. He could feel the venom go through. So subjectively, we could say it was real. For him, subjectively, it was real because he really believed that it was a snake. He could feel the pain, he could feel the venom flow through his blood vessels. So subjectively it was. Objectively, it was not. It was just a rope. So Maya could be understood with that example on how, based on the various factors, physiological, psychological, physical, based on our memory, our experiences, we could you know, assume things to be in a particular way, but it is very delusional. But we are so convinced that that is the way it is. I remember when I was little, especially during vacations, we used to have this 2-day train trip from Mumbai to Kerala. Either we are going to our relatives or we are going to Amritapuri. It's a 2-day train trip. And back in those times, you know, things were not as organized as things are today in India. So for food and things like that, you have to wait till the station comes and you have to go down, get into the station, buy some food, come back. So my dad always had this habit of getting down at every station that he used to stop at. And then I would always be worried that he needs to come back before the train starts. And he wouldn't come back immediately. So the train would start and I wouldn't see him back on the seat. I would just start crying and asking my mom what happened. And I very vaguely once remember my mom telling, "Don't worry, Dad will be here, he'll jump over the hills and he'll somehow catch up with the train." Ever since then, at least for the next few years when I was little, I always assumed after the train left, every time he got left behind at the station, and then he would, like the Bollywood heroes at that time, jump over all these hills and somehow catch up with the train and then come onto the seat. After 10 minutes, in 10 minutes he would be back. That was, I quite vividly had certain scenes that I would remember from the 80s, 90s movies when these heroes will go on a horse, go over hills and somehow catch up with the train. I always thought my dad did that. As a matter of fact, my dad always got onto the train before the train left, but he stayed probably near the door for some time and came back only after 5 minutes. So my assumption, I very strongly believe that he did this heroic way of catching up with the train every time. So again, for me it was very real. I very clearly believed that. So it's like Maya. At some point of time you realize that was just delusional. But when you are in it, you thoroughly believe it. So there could be many such hindrances wherein you would find it difficult to understand what is true, what is not. We need to have the process of discriminative inquiry, wherein we try to discriminate well what is right, what is wrong, what is true, what is false. So Adi Shankaracharya mentions here there is sadhana chatushtaya. There are 4 qualifications that one needs to have. What are the 4 qualifications? So it goes on like that. The question asked is sadhana chatushtayam kim? Sadhana chatushtayam kim? So what? Kim means what? What are the fourfold qualifications? What are the 4 qualifications that one needs to have to understand the supreme truth? So Adi Shankaracharya, the response to that is nitya nitya vastu vivekah. Nitya anitya vastu vivekah. Then the second one, iham utrartha. Iham utrartha phala bhoga viragah. And the third one, samadhi shatka sampattihi. Samadhi shatka sampattihi. And then fourth one, mumukshatvam. Fourth one is mumukshatvam cheti. So the first question asked is, what are the 4 qualifications? Sadhana chatushtayam kim. Let's just pronounce that to keep up with our tradition. Sadhana chatushtayam kim. What are the 4 sadhana, what are the 4 qualifications that one needs to have? So the first qualification is nitya, nitya, anitya,
Anitya.
vastu,
Vastu.
vivekah.
Vivekah.
Nitya, anitya, vastu, vivekah. Nitya, anitya, vastu, vivekah. What is nitya, anitya, vastu, vivekah? The ability to discriminate what is nitya and what is anitya. Nitya means something that is eternal, something that eternally holds true. Anitya is something that is not eternal, something that is permanent. What is permanent? What is impermanent? Nitya, anitya, vastu, vivekah. We'll discuss about it one by one. The second one, iham,
Iham.
iham,
Iham.
uttrartha,
Uttrartha.
iham, uttrartha,
Iham. Uttrartha.
phala,
Phala.
phala,
Phala.
bhoga,
Bhoga.
viragah.
Viraga.
iham, uttrartha, phala, bhoga, viragah. iham, uttrartha, phala, bhoga, viragah. Viragah, viragah, vairagya, vairagya, detachment. Detachment from what? Iham, uttrartha, phala, bhoga. Iham, now, uttrartha, hereafter, phala, fruits, bhoga, enjoyment. So, detachment from the fruits of our actions in now and beyond. So, detachment from the desire to experiencing the fruits of our actions now and beyond. The third one, samadhi, shatka sampatti. So, samadhi,
Samadhi.
shatka
Shatka.
sampatti.
Sampatti.
So, samadhi, there are shat, the number we discussed about it last week too, 6. So, there are 6 sampatti, 6 qualities that we could have. Sampatti could also be understood as something that we earn, something that we deservingly earn. So there are 6 such virtues that we earn. It begins with shama, adi means etc. Shama, etc. Such 6 virtues. We'll discuss that. So 6 virtues that one needs to have. And then the fourth qualification is mumukshutvam. Mumukshutvam cheti. Cheti. Mumukshutvam cheti. Cheti is cha iti. Cha means and. Iti likewise. So, and mumukshutva and likewise. What is mumukshutva? Moksha. Moksha means liberation. One who yearns for moksha is a mumukshu. So mumukshutva is the desire or the yearning or the craving for liberation. So what are the 4 qualification a spiritual aspirant needs to have to understand the supreme truth? The first one is viveka. Just I'm putting it word by word rather than using the whole term. Viveka is discrimination, right? Right discrimination between what is right, what is wrong, between real and unreal. Vairagya. Vairagya is dispassion. Viveka, vairagya, shat sampatti. Shat sampatti, the 6 virtues or the 6 disciplines or the 6 virtues. And then mumukshutvam. Mumukshutvam is the desire for liberation. These are the 4 qualifications one needs to have. So the typical flow of um, Tattva Bodha is where first the question is asked. So these are the four uh, uh, answers that is given. Then there is a question asked for each of the four answers, and it's elaborated that way. It's like a hierarchy. One question is asked, there are four answers. For each one, there's a question asked. So what's the next question? It's about Viveka. So we go there. So Viveka, Vairagya, Shat Sampatti, Mumukshutvam. We just discussed that. So the next question asked is Nitya Vastu Vivekaha Kaha. The next question is Nitya Anitya Vastu Viveka. We just discussed that. The question is Kaha. Kaha means what? What is Nitya Anitya Vastu Viveka? So what is Viveka? Is the question now asked. So let's just pronounce it to keep up with our tradition. Nitya, Nitya, Anitya,
Anitya,
Vastu,
Vastu,
Viveka,
Viveka,
Kah.
Kaha.
Kah. So you're asking the question, what is Nitya, Nitya, Vastu, Viveka? Because that was the first part of the answer, right? So what is Nitya, Nitya, Vastu, Viveka? The response is Nitya, Vastu. You have it there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Nitya, Vastu, Nitya, Vastu, Ekam, Brahma. Nitya, Vastu, Ekam, Brahma.
Nitya,
Vastu, Ekam, Brahma. Tad,
Tat,
yeah, it is there, right? Tad,
Tat,
Vyatiriktam,
Yatirikam,
Tad, Vyatiriktam,
Tatyarikam,
Sarvam,
Sarvam,
Anityam.
Anityam,
Tad, Vyatiriktam, Sarvam, Anityam. Tad, Vyatiriktam, Sarvam, Anityam. Ayameva,
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 Nitya, Nitya, Vastu Vivekaha. Vastu Vivekaha. Ayameva, Nitya, Nitya, Vastu Vivekaha. Ayameva, Nitya, Nitya, Vastu Vivekaha. So, what does it say? Nitya Vastu Ekam Brahma. Brahman, the supreme. The Nitya Vastu, the permanent element. What is the permanent element? Vastu Ekam. The only permanent Vastu or the only permanent element is what? Brahma, the supreme, the Brahman. Brahman alone is Nitya. The Brahman alone is permanent. Tad Vyatiriktam, Tad Vyatiriktam, anything that is but Brahman, Sarvam, all those Anityam are impermanent. So I repeat it, Nitya Vastu Ekam Brahma. The Brahman alone is the only element which is permanent. That Vyatiriktam, anything that is but Brahman, Sarvam, every of those items, Anityam, is impermanent. Ayameva, this alone is, or this itself is, Nitya Nitya Vastu Viveka. This is the right discrimination of what is Nitya, permanent, and what is impermanent. So, what is the gist of the response? What is the gist of the response that you understand?
only Brahma is
Only the Supreme is truth. Everything else is impermanent. They don't say they are false. They are impermanent. They may be true for some period of time, but they may become false at some point of time. Here the discussion is about permanency and impermanency. So they don't say everything else is false altogether. They may be true at some given point of time, but they may become false at some other point of time. Only one thing that constantly remains true, that's why we call it the absolute truth, is Brahman. It is a slow process. We cannot immediately say, oh, I learned this word, so from here onwards, I'll have the best understanding of the Brahman as the supreme truth. Everything else, I'm going to negate it as not being the permanent truth. It's very difficult to develop that attitude. It's a slow process. And as I always mention, we should start with smaller experiences that we have and try to build it up. That would be the best way to develop this attitude. I feel that would be much more stronger approach to developing this attitude. Last week or last time when we discussed about this, we discussed about the example of a car, right? When we discuss about a car, the car has a color, the car has a model, name has a make, has a year associated with it, the car has tires, the car has all the various many things. But the question we need to ask, I try to do this exercise whenever you are kind of bored, you're stuck in traffic, you have nothing to do. At least entertain yourself with such questions and try to answer them. Anything that you see around, you see a car, you see a person, you see a tree or something, the question you need to ask about the tree is, what is the permanent part of it and what is the impermanent part of it? It's actually an interesting game to find out about everything that we see around, and I would highly recommend you could try doing that. It's a good mind entertainer that keeps your mind occupied. So with the car, we could ask a lot of questions. Is the color of the car the car? If the car is gray in color, is gray the car? Is it? No. Why? Because the gray could become black the next year, the car still remains. Is the brand of the car the car? Is Toyota the car? No, it's just a brand. Is the model of the car, say it's Toyota Prius or it's Toyota Camry, is that the car? No, they are again just names or an understanding we develop for that car. Are the tires the car? No, the tires could be one today, and the next month we could change the tire, or the next year we could change the tires. Whether the tire is the same or another one, the car still remains the car. So it would be a good exercise that we could try to do. Try to understand what are the permanent things about the car and what are the impermanent things about the car. And if we really thoroughly think about it, there will be only one aspect which is permanent. Everything else is impermanent. But we can never deny the car is not blue in color. The car is blue in color at that given point of time. But we need to understand that we are not asked to deny that it's not blue in color. We need to just understand it could be blue in color today, it could be some other color tomorrow. If I take it to a body shop, I can change the color, and the car would still remain the car, right? It could be with a person too. We can ask, is he or she my friend? We may have an answer for that. Will he or she be my friend tomorrow? We'll definitely have an answer for that. It could be yes, no. Can you guarantee she will or he will be my friend the day after tomorrow? Again, we cannot guarantee that. Is she tall, or is he well built? Is he slim or is she slim? Can you guarantee she would be slim the next year too? None of these could be guaranteed. But is she who she is? Yes, she is who she is. Irrespective of any of these characteristics changing, the person just remains the person. His behavior may change, his looks may change, his other characteristics may change, but the person is the person. Try to understand what is the permanent reality associated with that person and impermanent facts associated with that person. Again, a good practice. And it's not just with items and things and people. It could be even with a moment or with a concept. A good example is this moment. I'm talking about this moment. This moment, it is 8:15 or 8:16 p.m. Is 8:16 p.m. this moment? When I ask the same question at 8:17 p.m., it's still this moment, right? But it's no more 8:16, it's 8:17 p.m. Or is this room this moment? What if I go to that room the next minute and ask, is this room this moment? That room will become this moment, not this room. Or we're talking about space. Or people around me. This very moment I have 10 people around me. The next moment I may have 11 people around me, or no one around me at all. Or I could have 100 people around me. So all these questions, again with concepts too, we could ask. All the things that define that item or that concept. Try to question, is this what defines it? Is this what defines it? What is this permanent? And finally, we'll understand this moment is this moment, irrespective of what is the time, what is the place, the space, time, people, things around. Those are not the ones that are permanent about this moment. This moment means being in the present, right? That's what finally this moment is. So we could just practice. I'm just giving you different examples. I just didn't want to give you.
Cars impermanent either.
Yeah, I mean that's the next point I was going to say. With the car is permanent. But now if you think about vehicles, car is just yet another vehicle. But if you think about transportation, vehicle is just yet another mode of transportation.
Individual car is permanent. It's all going to rust and disappear.
Exactly. So that was just the example with a car.
So,
Now we need to go a level up and ask, is the car permanent? Car is not permanent, because when we talk about vehicle, a bus could be a vehicle, a car could be a vehicle, and something else could be a vehicle. And then I go one more level up and ask, is vehicle permanent? No. Mode of transportation, you could fly, you could go by water, go by air. Now vehicle is just one mode of it. So vehicle itself also is not permanent. What is permanent is transportation. Now the question is to ask, is transportation permanent? No, because I probably don't even need a mode of transportation. I just think about moon and I can be on moon, right? So you start slowly. So after this, the next thing is to slowly start going up the level. And things that we think are permanent, even they are impermanent. Finally, when you build up the hierarchy, they'll all boil down to only one thing that is permanent, which is Brahman. And that's what is referred to in this verse. The only thing that is permanent is Brahman, the supreme reality, or the supreme. Everything else at some point of time is impermanent in nature. So this is something I usually think about. I thought I should discuss that. It may be boring or it may be a little weird, but I thought I just share that. So whenever you're stuck in traffic or you have nothing better to do, you feel bored, I highly recommend you try this. It's a good way to pass your time. So that was about Viveka, right? So moving along. The next one is Vairagya. So the question asked is Viragaha Kaha. Viragaha Kaha. Viragaha Kaha. So Viragaha, we discussed, is dispassion. Kaha, what is Kaha? What is dispassion? So the response is Iha Swarga Bhogeshu Ichha Rahityam. Iha Swarga Iha Swarga Bhogeshu Ichha. So how is it spelled? Ichha? Where is it?
Next to last.
Yeah. So it is ICCHA.
it's
Yeah, it should be ICCHA. Ichha. Ichha. It's not Icha. Ichha. Ichha. Rahityam. So Iha Swarga Bhogeshu Ichha Rahityam. Iha Swarga Bhogeshu Ichha Rahityam. So Iha means here, and Swarga, heavens, or Swarga is also generally used for the term or for the idea of where we would be after our death. So here in this life and wherever we are after this life. Bhogeshu, Bhogeshu, bhoga, to enjoy, to thoroughly enjoy something, to enjoy what we have here and what we would have after this life. Ichha, to have a desire to enjoy now and later. Rahityam, to discard that, to let go of that desire. So what is Vairagya? Vairagya is the absence of desire of enjoyment of the fruits of the action that we do in this world and after, ever, now and later. So Viragaha is nothing but to just let go of the desires that we have, that I want to enjoy the fruits of the actions that I do. That is Viraga. It's nothing more than that. It's very simple. It's to let go of the desires that we have. One thing we need to understand here is it doesn't say don't enjoy. See, renunciation is not about not enjoying or hating life. It's about enjoying whatever you deserve. Just don't desire to enjoy. When you get something to enjoy, just enjoy it. But don't try to desire that I want that enjoyment, I want that. Going over that is Vairagya, is dispassion. So we should definitely enjoy whatever we deservingly receive. There's no problem with that. Problem is when we keep desiring that I want that. There's no problem in preparing very well for an exam and aim for A grade or A plus, and keeping that in our mind, be motivated, prepare well for the exam. But once we have written the exam, and we are waiting for the results, best approach then is not to desire for A plus. Just be prepared for whatever I receive. Because once you're done with that, you've done your action, you have no control over what you receive, the fruits. I remember a recent example, Amrita University. Amma's University is just, I would say it started in 2003, so it's 15 years old. And the rate of growth of Amrita University is exponential. In 15 years, Amrita University has gained a lot of reputation throughout India. I think 2 years ago, the Indian government started examining all various universities, both state and private universities around India. And they started preparing a list, unlike US News and the other ranking agencies that we have, the government, they themselves do it to avoid any kind of other unnecessary factors playing a role in the ranking system. So the government started doing it to do an unbiased way of ranking universities. And Amrita University always comes in the top 10 in the country. And the other 9 in the top 10 are usually state universities, established for ever since independence, or probably some even before independence, which was 1947. So Amrita University is always the #1 private university, and it's just 15 years old, as I mentioned to you. So it is really a great achievement, something everyone who's associated with Amrita University should be proud of. But then recently, the Indian government started a new program. It's called Institution of Eminence. So they started this just last year. They declared that they are starting this program. So the idea was that every university can apply for being an institution of eminence. They had a huge application process. It's a very complicated, very extensive process. And the institution would be judged for for their eminence. And the idea was all those who would be recognized as an institution of eminence would be given complete autonomy. They have no restrictions from the university board that oversees all the universities in the country. They'll be given complete freedom. And the idea was to give them complete freedom so that they could do whatever they would want so as to come in the top 100 universities around the world. Or some such, that's the idea. So Amrita University, given its background and way it was always ranked on the top 10 and always ranked the number 1 private university in the country, did not make it into the first list that they published. And there were other controversies associated with it. Let's not get to that. But I remember one or two of the university people who were on the summer tour. It was during the summer tour when it was declared. They came up to Amma and disclosed it to Amma. Amma, we did not. They had all this serious look on their face and like, how is Amma going to respond to this? And they told Amma, we did not make it into that. I was like, okay. And then she just continued with her darshan, and they were like totally taken aback by that response. And then after some time, she just looked at them, like, what's the big deal? We didn't get it. Our focus should be on research, doing research that would help mankind. And that should be our only focus. We need to be least bothered about, or we did not get selected in that, or we got selected in that. So Amma's response was just that, and she just continued. So that was a big, a lesson for those who just took it so seriously and so disheartened by that. But then at the same time, when Amrita University is declared the topmost private university, Amma doesn't say, oh, this is all useless. Why do you even try for this? Don't try for that. Amma doesn't say that. Amma does encourage them when they strive to become the best university in the country. Amma does encourage that. But at the same time, you strive for it, you don't get it, accept it. You get it, definitely enjoy, definitely celebrate your success in achieving something. Amma doesn't deny that, oh, when you say Amrita University is the topmost university, like useless, why do you want to call it the topmost university? Amma doesn't say that either. She says, I respect the hard work of all Amma's children who are selflessly dedicating themselves so as to bring up the university to that level. So when it is said that you need to relinquish the desire for the fruits, doesn't say that don't enjoy the fruits. And the fruits you achieve deservingly, definitely accept it. But don't desire that I want this particular way or this particular outcome. I want it like this. That is not Vairagya. Vairagya is just to relinquish the desire to get a particular result. So Vairagya is a balance between desire, a balance between desire and acceptance. Because without desire, we'll have no motivation at all. So we definitely do need to have desire. We need to have something that motivates us. So unless and until we desire for A grade, we'll never do good in our exam. We never prepare well for our exams, right? We need to have that desire, but that should be not a desire, it should be a motivation. And once the action is performed, just relinquish that desire. And then what we need to develop is acceptance. So a balance between the desire and acceptance is Vairagya, is actual dispassion. So Viveka, Vairagya. Then we have the Shat Sampatti and Mumukshatvam, which we'll discuss the next week, or the next time we and we'll have just one more point after that to finish the first part. So I think we'll try to do that the next week, so that we
Uh,
finish that before European tour. Huh?
So the base or the foundation of that desire that you just spoke of, is that ego?
Of which,
You said that you said you need a certain level of desire to be able to like attain, like to want to have an A.
yeah, definitely, yes. Because just to exist in the physical realm, just to exist in the world, we need some level of ego. You know, they say a guru takes up the ego of being a guru. The guru doesn't say, oh, I am nothing, I cannot teach you. The guru takes the authority of a guru and that way teaches the disciples. So that's why there is this clear delineation between ego and pride. The guru may not take pride in being the guru, but he may have to assume the ego. Amma assumes the ego of being a chancellor. I don't know if she's proud of being a chancellor. I think she just doesn't care. But to just exist in the world, we need to have ego. We need to have individuality and do justice to that thing. So that ego definitely is there. But it should not transform into pride. That's where problems come.
So Chancellor doesn't have a degree.
Huh?
Chancellor doesn't have a degree.
Chancellor doesn't have a degree?
Sometimes it's
Amma has a PhD.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah.
She's Dr. Amma.
Yeah, from New York.
But as for this thing, Chancellor is more like an honorary position. Vice Chancellor onwards is a nominated positions. Chancellor is an honorary position for every institution. So the governor of each state is the chancellor for all the state universities in that state. I don't know if the governor has enough qualification. He's maybe a politician, maybe otherwise. Okay, so we'll conclude praying for world peace, praying to the Almighty that every being in the creation be happy, content, and peaceful. Let's chant Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu 3 times. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Guru Pyo Namah. Hari Om.